you all. Haven't done a talk like this since COVID, so it's good to be with so many people with so different backgrounds, I expect. But it's also good to see some of you. Ben, we worked together at Sony. Clementina, we worked together at Le Mans. Isabel, we worked together at Take It Easy. It has been great to see you again. So I worked as an interaction designer and user experience designer for about 13 years now. And I experienced different type of organizations. So small startups like Take It Easy, as big corporations like Sony, Philips, and now Telenet with Clos. And I learned to analyze how they're structured, their design team, how they're structured their organization, and what basically makes people happy in those organizations. And during that time, I was a UX designer, interaction designer, where we build web flows for the Sony e-commerce web shop, where we build mobile apps for Take It Easy. And what I actually did was building designs and flows directly for users, directly for people, so they could use. But now I have to go through a little mind shift, because today I'm a design manager, and as a people leader, I don't design for people anymore. I actually design for people with people who design. So this is my new mindset that I need to work with, how to design for people who design. What this means is that I actually quitted Figma. I quitted Sketch, I quitted Axure, I quitted doing a little bit of HTML, and I focused more on empowering people, in listening to the designers, in making their design career grow, and in making their work visible within the organization. But in the end, the process is the same. So as a good UX designer, you start with people, you listen to them, you analyze the pain points, the frustrations, and you find creative solutions around them. And you put together processes, structures, operations on how to organize a team. My goal today is to do a little bit of a show and tell. So going over my career, how I see design organizations, how I see design operations, but I also want to get your insights. So there will be some interactivity. Maybe we have other designers here, maybe developers, maybe we also have managers, I'm not sure. I hope I covered some of the expertises we have, but in the end, I would like that you go out of today's event with a few more ideas than what you walked in. So hopefully we can make this interactive, and folks online, you'll be able to use the chat and we will be reading your comments as well. All right, so let's start by talking design. Because I didn't know I was going to end up being a manager. I was a hardcore interaction designer, and I wanted to stay technical. I wanted to understand the technical constraints. I wanted to work with developers, look at code, and come up with a solution that could be implemented today. So definitely not your blue sky designer, extremely pragmatic designer. But what a better place than to work for a design system team, to be together with the developers. So I got the chance to work in Berlin for 3 years at Amazon Web Services, building their design system from the ground up, when we actually just had one button and a table, and we built it up for I think about 3, 4, 5 years internally. We worked together with the web developers as a centralized design system team, and we also built what we call a contribution model, where the teams that were using the design system could contribute back to it. So we can say that design systems are great for branding, user experience, and so on, but for me, design systems are a great tool for closing the gap between design and development. So at AWS, the design system was used by more than 1,000 people. So that was a lot of teams, a lot of people working with that design system to ship more than 200 services and products. You as a user of AWS, you can have one service, for instance. You can have 10, you can have 20, but in the end, you should really don't care about who builds the service. It just should work as intuitively and as smooth as possible. So that's what we were doing with this design system. And we were working on a centralized design system team. What does this mean? It means that we were UX designers, UI designers, front-end developers working in React, Angular, and GWT. GWT, for the young of you, stands for Google Web Toolkit. It's an old framework, but we were building for it. And basically, we had a process of delivering components. This is how we were structured. We were very technical, but we always started with the people. So from the community, so from the people that use the design system, we get requests, component requests. And from there, we took them and tried to build the most universal component possible. In order to do so, we actually analyzed all those 200 and something use cases in where that component could be used. It's a lot of scale, but what is interesting here is that there was no silos. We worked always together with development. At the start, design could sketch, but design was also looking into web standards. What is the standard of a development standard of a dropdown, for instance? And we worked very, very closely with developers. We also looked at code. We were doing design reviews with the developers. And at the end, we did a lot of testing. And we also did, as a UX designers, API discussions and reviews. So in this design system organization, you can really embed different expertise at the center of the organization. So this is why I believe a design system, more than making the user experience consistent, is a tool to bridge the gap between design and development. So that's how we were organized. For me, this is a link to a friendship. Now I have a question to you from your companies, from your organizations, from your expertise. What tools and systems and processes do you have in place to close that gap between design and development? People online, you can type your answers in the chat. Marco will go over them, if any, but I'm really interested in you at Movify or at Proximus. I heard there were some folks at Proximus. What tools do you use to bridge that gap? Or is there a gap? There is a gap?
Yes.
And why is that? Aren't designers and developers working together? Are they working in different departments, maybe different buildings?
Yeah.
Different buildings? Countries, okay. And working in different countries, you see that as a blocker for collaboration?
We don't have time.
They don't have time.
They don't value the
Interaction.
yes, the design system.
Interesting.
The people online can follow.
What I found, I understand where this is coming from, and I remember, Isabel, when we were working at Take It Easy as a startup, there was no process of design and development. But I remember when we were trying to work on a solution, still in sketches, we actually went to developers, interrupted their release sprint, and say, "Hey, you come here." And we got together in a room with Marcus, and we said, "Okay, destroy my idea." And together, we're able to tell them, the developers, that their experience in developing native solutions is important, that actually will save time for us and will benefit the user. And I remember Nicolas saying, "Oh, I was never in such type of situation where you give me a marker and I had to destroy your idea." And in the end, it was quite valuable for them because they were heard.
It helped that we were all under the same roof and were like 5 meters apart, so we could quickly go and talk and discuss with them, because in my company as well, the developers are on a different floor and I'm online. So yeah, I think basically geography is a big problem.
Yeah. Even today with COVID, you still feel we haven't set up everything to talk to each other, to collaborate together?
I think it's actually worse in my company. Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of an ongoing problem. But yeah, I feel like they're untouchable. They're called framework, but they're like untouchable, and we can't really discuss with them directly. We have to go through someone who's basically she's the bridging the gap. But like you said, it's really difficult because they don't have time either. They've got a huge backlog, and so sometimes our ideas are not.
That's why I see having a centralized, dedicated team for that could actually solve a few problems, where you have people that their only focus is talk about a button for months. Right? So maybe for a few designers that sounds crazy, but that's what those teams are for, and they have that time and headspace to really focus on that. And we work together with developers. Are there any comments online, Marco? No. Okay, then that's fine. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's talk about people. Today, I'm the UX&UI Design Chapter lead at Telenet. What this means is that I am a people manager, design leader, how you want to call it, and I manage the designers in 2 fronts. First is all about their career, their aspirations, where they want to grow, what they want to develop themselves. Do a lot of one-on-ones, listening, remove their frustrations, trying to understand what are their pain points, why they cannot communicate with developers, why they cannot communicate with project managers, and so on. And the other front is taking care of the design good practices, meaning making sure that we have our design playbook, that we stand by a few rules, that we all align regardless of where you are located within the organization, where you're located within a team. And we make sure that whatever we deliver has certain standards that we align on. So think motion, think design inclusivity, think how we align, and the idea is that I actually build those processes and those workflows to streamline and orchestrate the design chapter. But I mentioned chapter. What is this? Where does this come from? So a little bit of background. In 2019, Telenet moved to an agile corporate environment. What does that mean? Agile is something that you might know from engineering, development cycles, and releases. So basically the entire organization is now release focus. That goes from the digital teams, the marketing teams, the corporate teams, and so on. And the idea here is that we really get closer to our customers and really release based on based on the values. It's really good to see different people. I'm so happy. I haven't seen her since Berlin. I think we were able to meet each other in Berlin. Sorry for that. That was a discreet introduction, of course. I care about people. I get excited around people. So what it means as this agile corporate environment is that you really try to reach value for your customer, not only in what you deliver, but how you are structured. So the company is basically divided in different domains. So you have domains of residential customers that use Telenet services. You have businesses, customers that use Telenet services. You have TV and entertainment. You also have Base. Base is also another telco, more from the French-speaking side of things that we also acquire. So we think two different branding styles. And each team is also divided into tribes. And those tribes that are around a value, but also a part of the website. So for instance, we have tribes that only focus on the acquisition of the new customers, or we have tribes that only focus on the TV experience and how you install your television, to how you consume, to how you hand in your TV hardware, for instance. And inside those tribes, you have squads. Squads are autonomous teams that can work efficiently and on their own work stream, if I can call it like that. And in those teams, you have designers, developers, business analysts, product managers, PEOs, PM, whatever you need, basically, to deliver what you need to deliver. So those squads, they have different compositions. And where do we all fit in this organization? Well, I am leading the UX and UI Design Chapter. What it means is that is the mothership. The mothership of designers. It's the overarching layer that allows the designers to feel safe and work on design topics. Because the way we work, we are organized in a centralized design partnership model, meaning that we have designers inside the tribes and designers inside the squads. So on their day-to-day, they only talk with their POs or with the developers. But we also have designer-less teams where we use the model of a traveler. So somebody sitting in the chapter that can go and help a certain team for a campaign, a small project, a little bit like the agency style. And inside this chapter, we get together. We share how each one does design, how the designer on the e-commerce web team does their design, how we can replicate that to the mobile experience, for instance, because you can also think, yeah, but if we isolate teams, we isolate experiences. Well, that's why the chapter is here for. We also do a lot of show and tells for different designers to learn how to design for TV interfaces, because we know we need to take into account that the user is in a dark room, that the screen is not in front but actually quite far away. So we do have different design standards there. And in this design chapter, we also take care of the design system. So in this case at Telenet, we don't have a centralized design system team. It's part of the chapter work. But how can you make sure that everything actually runs a line? We do show and tells, we do chapter meetings, we work together on how we structure our Figma files, but mainly we need to agree on a common ground. And a common ground is our values. And I have them here, so you can take some if you feel it resonates with you. So we've developed those values, and each designer can go back to their squad and really stand by them. We have, for instance, we aim higher. What this actually means is we came up with this value when talking to people, to designers, and you know how you have sometimes meetings that you go and talk with PMs, you go and talk with developers, and at the end of the meeting go like, is this really the best that we can do? And by having this tangible value, they can say, wait a minute, we aim higher than this. We live by higher standards. We as a design community are not willing to bend on this value. For instance, we put the user first. This should be stuff that you don't need to say, but sometimes you do. Because sometimes you might be in a meeting as a UX designer, say, yeah, this is the best solution for the user, it's intuitive, it doesn't cost much. Yes, but we are not ever going to implement that. We technically cannot. And by playing the card, we put the user first. You remember, everyone in the meeting, that what you're trying to do is to deliver user experiences and customer user benefits and value. So that's the focus also as a customer-centric company that we try and want to be. We also use them at the end of workshops because, you know, we have extroverts, we have introverts, and sometimes at the end of workshops, also in our own design and way of working, we say, hey, did everyone speak up? Did everyone actually had their say? Did we put all the perspectives into place in solving this issue? So that's what we have as our values. Again, if it resonates with you, go ahead, take one and show it up at the meeting, and we put the users first. So that's a way for us to internally share our vision, but we also need to share it outside, inside, so to the rest of the organization. I'm a big ambassador of the designers when I get to be in meetings when we need to do a few trade-offs. But what also is important is to make the design work visible across the organization. This is an example of a fair, an internal fair that was organized at Telenet, where you had a few booths. We got selected to present the work of the design system that we're doing at Telenet. That is actually saving quite a lot of time because, like I mentioned, we also have Base, which is a different branding, but with the design system we managed to code it once, deploy it everywhere, regardless of the branding style you want to add to it. That catch the eye of the company, so we were able to showcase our work, our values, what we stand for, and have some visibility. The fun fact of this is that it got so much attention that I was called on the Friday to say, Nadia, on Monday you present to John, which is our CEO. And I was like, okay, I will be there. So it's raising a little bit the design maturity and design work within the organization. Now I have a question to you. In your field of expertise, that being design, development, product manager, I'm not sure which other areas of expertise are here, how do you put in place or how do you share your core principles in maturity within your organization? Is there maybe Slack channels, maybe beer events, maybe any organizational process or setup that is in place to showcase your expertise within the org? Yes?
So each Monday with our chapter and like team, we just like with all the designers, we just like share stuff and have meetings so that we can just like talk to each other, talk about the project, the problem, the issue, the like kind of everything we can talk and exchange with other UX designers.
Nice. So you have kind of a show and tell. Nice. And who is the audience?
It's basically like the team of UX designers.
Okay.
Only UX.
Are other stakeholders invited?
Nope.
Should they?
I don't know.
I'm in the same team as Bruno, by the way, so I'm helping him on this. But this is also like something that comes from within. We've decided this as UX designers within Proximus to have these sort of weekly meetings to help each other. So it's not something that comes from the company or from someone above. It's something that was really like decided for us. We realized that on some projects we might help each other, and that's why we have a weekly catch up on this. I totally agree with you in saying that we should not be the only ones in these meetings, but at this point, as it comes from within, it's also complicated to convince like stakeholders coming to these weekly things. And at Proximus, we also have a lot of designers compared to maybe other companies, so it makes it difficult for everyone to have their say and their time and all this. So
and what do you feel is missing today for the other stakeholders to see your work?
I'd say a design system, a good design system that we can all work on and use. I think it's just a basis, a starting point for everyone.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Actually, I can build on that
Yes.
a little bit because I'm also part of the same team and also at Proximus.
Did you just invite the competition or what?
I'm here to spy. No, but so technically, customer centricity is one of the pillars of Proximus.
Okay.
In theory.
Okay.
And that's all I'm gonna say. There's currently nothing really to, as far as I know, structurally to ensure that this is really taken into account.
I'm not going to say where I work. I think just on the basis of the question about maturity, I think so in the last year, Proximus has, oh damn it, I said it. There's been like a big transformation in terms of the way of working and also moving to an agile way of working. And I would say that the maturity level is not particularly high at this point, but I would say that it's progressively getting, the maturity level is building, especially within the design chapters. So that's now there is more facilitation between UX designers and UI designers. There can always be more. And then the next step would be further out of the chapter, so towards the developers, towards...
And how would you like to be spotlighted? I'm not sure. So, asking you.
I think the issue with it at this point is that unlike some organizations where you have a squad and you have dedicated people within that squad, that's not necessarily the setup at Proximus. So you will constantly collaborate with, you'll be working in your squad on a file or a number of different projects, but you actually have different developers, for example, or different analysts for different projects. So it's quite hard to, the variation of projects and the different people you're working with and the different requirements, it's quite hard to kind of build a kind of a collaborativeness.
Collaboration is always hard, but I think it's all about showing where the other could benefit from you, and build on top of that. The idea is not to just throw stuff over the fence, but to build together. Good. I'm not sure if there are any comments online.
Jan Blas says he shares it through reviews and stakeholder meetings.
Yes, so I like that. Reviews, it's a little bit more than show and tells, is actually where you ask the opinion of stakeholders. So it's a two-way communication, and there you actually value their inputs. They feel that they are being heard, and hopefully at the end the product will be better off as well. So I like that idea as well. All right, thanks for sharing. But all these design values, they didn't come out of the blue, right? Because they can sometimes sound a little bit smooshy, yeah? So the way we come up with this was, of course, through collaboration, but mainly I listened to people. So during my one-on-ones, I could understand and try to find a few patterns in what the designers were saying, and actually understood that we might need this common ground, those extra power cards to have arguments within the meetings that they have. But that's the great thing about being a people leader, is actually you talk to people, you listen to people. And the good thing about liking and loving design is because you cannot let it go. So the best of the worlds is actually when you combine both. When you look at the design trends, when you look at where business is going digitally, and you hear what people are saying inside. So it's not only ship, deliver, but let's reflect in our way of working. Let's reflect on what we stand for and how we organize ourselves. Of course, out of those one-on-ones, I built a gigantic list of things to do and improve, which is also a mindset that we need to have, is to constantly improve and adapt based on what we have. And based on these few principles, like we aim higher, we have positive impact for our users, there is one about, we put the user first. We design intuitive and accessible solutions for our users first. Based on that, I decided to test an hypothesis. Again, UX design coming back. And my hypothesis was that in order to raise our design standards on how we ship web and mobile digital experiences, we need actually to be inclusive and accessible. So what we did with the designers, we set up a hackathon where we divided ourselves in 3 groups, and we decided to test how bad or good is our situation in regards to web accessibility, inclusivity, think navigation through keyboard interaction of our websites, think color palette of our branding, contrast. And we decided, okay, let's see what we have to deal with. So we set up 3 stations. The first station was looking at our Telenet and base website, just doing keyboard interaction navigated through the website by other means than a mouse or a trackpad. The second station was doing that, going over the Telenet and base website, but using browser extensions for automated testing of web accessibility. And the third station was mobile testing, where we actually activated the accessibility native features of our Androids and iPhones. This was a great workshop. A lot of designers actually never turned on their accessibility native features of their phones, so it was a lot of a big learning curve there. We also get to share all those cool browser extensions that exist out there, such as Lighthouse, Axcore, Wave, and so on. And we get our hands dirty. Out of 1.5 hour workshop, we were able to come up with a backlog of 45 accessibility violations. We were into something here. And we said, okay, we're just a design team. We cannot fix all of this. There are a few things that are, of course, design related, such as the color contrast, and there are other stuff that falls a little bit outside of our scope. So by understanding the organization, looking on how our organization is structured, we decided to look for allies. Remember our developers, friends? We got together. We actually audited our web components, so the design system once again. We partnered with AnySurfer to go over all our web components and say, okay, how bad is this? We divided into different backlogs: backlog of design, backlog of web development, and backlog of content, because we also have a CMS layer on top of our websites. And there are some things to tackle there as well, such as heading hierarchy and content hierarchy and so on. But that's our little bubble. There is more. There is brand and marketing that needs to be involved. There is product manager that needs to be involved, so there is a priority of the backlog. We need to onboard our content editors. We need to onboard all our corporate and brand reputation towards the outside. We also need to involve legal, because I'm not sure if you know, but by 2025, all private and public sector websites and digital applications must be accessible. So as designers of consultancy like Movify, it's also your duty to actually help the organizations shape inclusive experiences. But we can also go further. How about retail? How about our shops? How accessible are they? How about the TV interfaces that we talked about? How we are going to make them accessible? How about all the videos that we need to caption and so on? Then we have to say, hey, take it easy, okay? The road ahead is long, but we understand where we need to tackle with ourselves, with our way of working, but also with the rest of the organization. But like I mentioned, we invest in people first. People. We got together designers, content editors, developers, and we decided to have a training. We train our internal people around web accessibility, all based in the audits that we did, so it's not out of fluffy hair. And we were able to actually go over our websites, again, see the issues that a person using assistive technology or just basically not using a mouse encounters while using our products that we build and that we ship. And we decided to look a little bit on how we can improve our way of working. As of today, we're looking into integrating accessibility annotations into our Figma helper files. We're looking into always making sure that with the design system, we actually design for keyboard interactions. So just by adding maybe a few keys inside the Figma file that we use, it reminds us that we need actually to build for those keyboard interactions. And the developers are also on board because they follow the trainings, and in the end they also want to build better code, websites that are more performant, that run faster. So everyone is on board there. So for me, bringing this accessibility initiative to the table inside the organization is really bringing design and people together and see how we can move forward our design maturity and people within the organization. Third question for you. What initiatives are you working on in your companies that brings everyone together inside the organization? What's out there? What are organizations working on? You can, I'm not sure, it does not need to be design related, huh?
Team building.
Team buildings?
No.
Team building.
Team building.
Oh, team, not the building itself? Okay. It's like architecture is the new thing. Oh, really? All right. So all the company is working towards team building, maybe because of the COVID crisis, or?
So we have a design chapter.
Yeah.
And in the design chapter, we have a lot of type of designers. And so we do team buildings with the others designers, you know, like these ones that you don't really work with. And so we get to exchange with these people in a non-working way.
Okay. So
I don't know.
Organizations are investing in people and how people share, communicate. What else should we be looking at? Yes, Katja.
I think I'm here to spy on Movify and you as well. I've been eyeing these things for quite a long time in my position as event manager, and I was hired by a company that grew very fast in the last 2 years during COVID, and people don't know each other. That's one thing. And second thing is software developers in a niche, let's put it this way, can be very special as characters. So taking them out of their comfort zone is also a very big challenge for me. So I've been there for 6-7 months. What I've noticed is bringing their families together helps a lot outside of, you know, like working context. That's one thing. Second thing is, sorry?
I didn't know software developers have families.
They do.
Software developers.
You will be surprised. Some have big families. And second thing is building something. Like I started laughing together with you, but then I remembered one of the ideas that I had is physically building something together. We are planning now to build our bar, outside bar, ourselves. So there will be decorations that people will be bringing. There will be projects that the designers will be making, and the handyman, because we're a 360 degrees company where software and hardware is produced. So there are a lot of handy people and production. So they'll be doing that too. So one of the ideas. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So out of this, we should all be focusing in getting our people together, mainly outside of their business expertise. Any comments from online? All right. No, I think it's great to hear also all of the different backgrounds. Maybe it brings a few ideas. Maybe next time I can bring on how we built our bar at Telenet. All right. So today we talked about centralized design system teams. We talked about agile corporations. We talked about centralized design partnerships. We talked about values. That's a little bit of the background that I bring. This is my story. I'm looking forward to learn even more from you around the beers. So this is it. You can follow me, you can scan the QR code. This leads to my LinkedIn if you're interested. Thanks for listening and thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Nádia. Are there any questions? Yes.
Sorry, the Proximus team here to make things better for us. I'm just curious, in one of the slides you wrote that design was at the base of organizational change. And then later you explained how you went to the CEO to present a little bit about what you did. So I'm curious, how do you ensure that design motivates change? What do you put in place to make that happen? And which impacts have you had?
So what I mean by that, so there are two questions. What I mean by having the designers being an organizational change, that's how I want them to feel within the organization. So in order for them to feel that way, we put different processes around it. I think the values is also one way to say to them, hey, you can actually speak up, you know a lot, you're trained, you have a lot of background, go for it. So it's just empowering them. And with the accessibility track, actually, we are changing a little bit how we ship our digital products. And that means that in the end, we do have to change our spec requirements from the development chapter, which I don't own. So it's trying to have this ripple effect towards the rest of the teams and the corporation. And the other thing that you mentioned is how does the organization spotlight or view it? It's also a corporate mindset shift. So it's not feature driven. We need more features, users need features, users love features, towards being a more customer-centric company, meaning you first define what is the value that you want to bring for your users, for your customers. You just basically lay out the UX process. You try to understand what are your customer frustrations, and you design an organization based on that. So we do what we call value streams instead of the web team, the mobile team. No, it's values. So the values could be, for instance, how do we acquire new customers? And then you list all the channels and platforms. How do we support our customers managing the data that they consume? So value. And then all the channels that go about that value, that being web, that being mobile app, that being customer support that picks up the phone and has an angry client because they are surpassing their mobile usage. Another value could be entertain and delight our users. Okay, how to entertain and delight your users? Via the TV subscription that they need to get. Okay, how is it actually installed? Can they do it themselves? Is a technician required? And so on and so on. How do they experience switching and browsing content? How do they give back the hardware? So it's not based on channels, it's based on customer values or customer stories.
And have you had any impact on business? A lot of projects usually in such corporations are pretty top down, right? So I'm curious if you were able to challenge a little bit, or
well, are they top down? Yes and no. They are, of course, business decisions that a company needs to take. You need to be on board with those business decisions and add to it. How can you contribute to it? How can you add more customer value to it? Not shooting the other way, because shooting the other way it's not part of the focus. So first, understand the focus of the business. How is it structured? And then you see how you can add your expertise into it. That's how I see it. After 3 years in Germany, I become very squared around structures and processes, but that's how I see. Yes, it's the German thing. Yeah. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about the future of, or the accessibility and the future, because I think it's all well and good doing like a hackathon and like creating a backlog of like breaches of accessibility and talking about it. But how do you see like how do you see corporations like or companies like Telenet approaching accessibility, and do you see it, how do you think that would manifest? Do you think it like there should be a designated task force to accessibility, or should it be part of the whole, a pillar of how do you see it?
Well, I think it's a little bit hard to speak in the entire name of a company that I don't own.
In the chapter, then.
But what I can say is that I was battling a little bit on if it should be a dedicated team to only focus on that or not. And there are, of course, a lot of pros and cons in these different models. But in the end, it's all about doing the right thing, right? So I'm more a believer of integrating it in our way of working, that going from Figma files to how we set up a new shop with a ramp, for instance, in our way of working, having accessibility by design, and not have an additional team with additional project with additional budgets. No, it needs to be included in the way of working. And I think it's starting to reflect also in other areas that I didn't saw it at first, such as employee happiness and corporate. So for instance, how we hire, how inclusive our job ads, what is our gender gap in our employee database, and so on. So I was not looking into it because maybe I was just looking too much at the code, but I was like, okay, the ripple effect is starting. So I think it should be part of doing things right by design.
I am, like you, a big fan of centralized partnership model. I just wonder, in your experience, what are the main challenges linked to it? Because I know that there are a lot of advantages, but I wonder what are the challenges for you and how do you tackle them?
Yes, of course there are challenges. The challenges that we have is sometimes you can feel certain power of tribes versus chapter, you know, like I need that person 100% focus on the backlog. There is no 100%. Let's get that straight. A person needs to go to meetings, a person can get sick, and a person needs to work on their own way of working, improve their work efficiency to, in the end, deliver better products fast. So that's the negotiation that we need to have as an organization level, and that I have all the time with PMs, leads, and so on. But it's also showing a little bit the benefit to them. In this case, the benefit is shipping faster, having their web experience actually align with the mobile experience that they didn't thought of because it's another PM, because it's another team. But we are here to bridge those gaps. So that's the added value that folks in the chapter adds to their teams. So that's a challenge. Budgets are challenges, but I also apply the UX process to budgeting, so I find creative solutions to find budgets, and we find it.
Thank you.
Yes?
I really have a really simple question, but in your chapter, how did you organize the copywriting, especially if you have like and also conversational design or element like that? If you want everything make sense, or of course with development, but also design, how do you integrate the copy part?
So under my umbrella, I only have user experience designers and user interface designers. I do not manage copywriters. Copywriters are embedded in those squads and they have their own chapter lead. So at that time, we sync together with the chapter lead on things that matter, but mainly I rely on the designers to raise issues that there might be with copywriters, and we find solutions for it. For example, how to integrate text into Figma. That's a very concrete challenge. We looked into plugins, we looked into localize as well, because we support multiple languages, and actually provide content editors, content writers, licenses to Figma. Who is the Figma budget owner? There you go. So that gets unblocked. So that's maybe a small example, but it's how we integrate them. There are two questions here and then over there.
Speaking from the content side, were you to decide, would you like to have a UX content person within your umbrella? Because we spoke a lot about design, but in the UX family, there's the new cousins, the content designers.
Yeah.
So do you think it would be easier for you for an easier process to deliver, to have an UX educated person in your teams embedded?
It depends. When I was working at AWS, we were in charge of writing the documentation. I would love to have a UX writer with me, because I make a lot of English mistakes, because I'm good at defining variables, but maybe not making long poetic sentences. And design system documentation is crucial. Now, at Telenet, I will say, let's listen to the designers first, because maybe they are not such big challenge there. I cannot say I want a content designer. Of course, I want as many people as possible so we have a happy family, but does it solve anything? Not sure. So I'll first listen to what they have to say, because I could have the same rationale about development. Would I like to have developers under the chapter? Well, maybe. Depends on what we're trying to solve. For now, it's okay. Don't see major issues between UX and content collaboration. For now, maybe there will. When that time comes, we'll come up with processes and tools to solve that.
Thank you.
And there was another question already for a long time.
Hi, so also from Proximus, not the same chapter as everyone else, but I just started a few months ago, and I feel that a big frustration at Proximus is the tooling and the processes surrounding everything that's design. And now that you said that you don't have a design system team, how do you manage that, or who's responsible, or who defines it, who manages the rules, the processes, and doesn't create frustration?
So, because we don't have a centralized design system team yet, and I phrase on the yet because I think as an agile organization we should adapt. We rely on the folks that are in the chapter of development, and in the chapter of content, and in the chapter of the CMS, and in the chapter of design. So when I showed earlier, we do have folks working in the chapter, not inside tribes, and their role is to come up with those tools to support design efficiency. So a percentage of their time is dedicated to the design system, building components, iterating components. Also, we divided into work streams based on, for instance, only tackling contributions. How do we manage the requests and ideas from squads and tribes that need a component build? So there is an entire contribution process that is managed by the contribution work stream. What other work stream we put together? The documentation work stream around design system. We have documentation in Confluence for our designers. We have documentation in Adobe Experience Management. We have documentation in our Fractile Atomic website. We have documentation in our public website. Okay, it's time to make sense out of that. We also have different brands. We have base, we have entertainment. How do we document and scale this up? And we divided that by work streams. It's my role as a chapter lead to shield their time and say, this is the focus right now for this release, for this sprint, and this is what you're going to work on. All the requests from other teams, I'm going to shield them. I'm going to send them back. I'm going to find creative solutions so your time is protected. If I hear, that's where the designer wants to grow and invest on. So that's also why there is the one-on-ones, and it's also interesting to hear, okay, we have somebody that is highly interested in developing their UI skills in the design system. Let's protect him. There is a designer who's actually not happy in their team. Let's find a swap. Let's find something else. So it's just by listening to people.
I have a question on like the previous questions that were asked. I'm actually a UX copywriter at Proximus. So I'm not in a squad actively. I'm in what they call a center of excellence, which means I'm not allocated to one direct project, and I'm actually supposed to supervise all of them a bit, which isn't always easy. So I was actually wondering, how are you guys at Telenet able to create a consistency in copywriting with having different languages, translations? You say that all of this is like in the hands of content writers within squads, but how do they like align between themselves? Is it something that is based in, for example, the design system, or through?
Well, they have a chapter.
They have a chapter.
So the same role that I have as a chapter lead looking over the UX and UI designers, they have a chapter looking over the copywriters, where they have their playbook, where they have their guidelines, where they have their, where they align also with branding in regards to tone of voice, that there is to have a good alignment there. How to write good copywriting for Telenet persona, how to write good copywriting for base persona, because it's different, and also based on the language, which is French and Dutch. The English, not so much, mainly French and Dutch.
So in a sense, they have their own design system, let's say, like their own place with like maybe templates, guidelines.
Yes. But that is all set up, but they're chapter lead.
Okay.
Based on their needs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Very jealous, by the
way. I have a question maybe more about design processes, especially in Agile, because we didn't touch that that much. I've worked in different big organizations which have different takes on this. So for instance, I worked at BNP Paribas, where they had actually quite, let's say, defined process, and the chapter was actually enforcing, or at least ensuring that this process was followed across the organization. It has its benefits, of course, because I didn't have to fight that much for the process, but it also has its limitation, because then I felt sometimes frustrated that I was stuck in the framework. I also have worked at the Purple brand for many years, and it's a bit the opposite, where actually they don't really have a process, and it's a bit chaos on that side, at least in my opinion, meaning that then it relies on the individual to actually make a difference. They go, it's the same model that you explained, they go to the teams, to the projects, but then it depends on the experience and seniority of a designer to actually make a difference. And so if you have a junior designer, of course, it will be much more difficult. So again, positives and negatives, but I was curious to know a bit what's your take on this. I know maybe you organize this at Telenet. Is it like, yeah.
In terms of, there is no golden standard. it all depends on the people that you work with, how is the organizational structure, and how you can benefit from that organizational structure. I know many companies I've asked, oh, how did you do it at Amazon? We want the same. No, you don't want the same. It's not going to work because it's not the same people, it's not the same values, it's not the same mindset, it's not even the same product. So it has to fit within the organization and the people that you work with. There are people and organizations that are extremely structured, that strive on it and that only rely on that. And others that cannot be bothered with that because they rely on individual contributions. Even if it sounds chaotic, maybe in the end, what is delivered to the end user is okay. I'm not sure. But I would not enforce one structure to solve all the different companies' problems. Working in startups, different processes. Working in big company, different processes. Working in different countries, different processes. Different cultures, remote people. It's like we like to say in UX design, it depends.
Yeah, it's a bit the expected answer, of course, but then I understand in your case it's a bit more organic then on that sense. And maybe what are maybe the challenges that you have in the Agile model regarding that?
Yes, of course, there are challenges. To align a little bit on the answer that I give to Clementina is aligning on the business direction, what you want to do, how you can add to it, and in the end show that you can improve their way of working, you can improve their product by you talk, you negotiate, you show value. So yeah, challenging product managers, tribe leads, yes, but we kind of have to be on the same boat, and the same boat is delivering customer value.
Yeah, thanks.
One last question? Or two last questions?
The beer is getting warm.
Sorry, I'm actually not from Proximus. No, I was just wondering, the values, the value cores that you've got there, have they been kind of like, not validated, but like overseen by everyone, like from the structure, your company, or is it just in the UX/UI team? So can you show these values to the app?
So I didn't ask any authorization. I did show them, but they were built on top of the Telenet values. So they were not coming out of nowhere. We started with the Telenet values, and we're trying to understand what do they mean for us as designers? What does this value actually change for us, for our way of working, for our products? Can we align with what we believe on? And that was our starting point. Then, of course, we developed them into what it really, really matters for designers today. Maybe they will change in 2-3 years. That's okay. We will print them again. But they were built on the company values and what they really mean for us. We went ahead and we showcased them at the booth. That's when we put them out. And by the interest that we saw also from other people, we said, okay, maybe we are doing something right here. So as the other teams at Telenet have taken them, I invite you also to take them. Maybe they resonate with you. Maybe you want to just have them in the back of your pocket. So feel free to take them.
Thanks.
I've been really aching for this one. Actually, I have a few more, but I'll stop with this one. You talked about accessibility, but also inclusivity.
Yes.
It's a subject that is quite fashionable, I guess, in the US, but I'm really curious, what do you do to be inclusive in your design in terms of gender inclusivity and so on?
So it has many fronts. In terms of design, we think about how it impacts our diverse audience. The easy way to go is how is that going to resonate with our Flemish speaking audience? How about our French speaking audience? In terms of marketing, they actually went ahead and worked on an inclusive marketing charter. What it means is that they're revising their communication towards the customer. So think campaigns, TV ads, radio ads, mappies, and how is the language actually inclusive? Using a little bit jargons, making sure that by making a fun campaign, we are actually not offending anyone. What other inclusivities actions we're doing, all in the hiring front. Like I said, we're looking at the job ads, how to make them inclusive, also being aware on how women respond to job ads and how men respond to job ads. It's step by step. We're doing it in a few fronts. We're also doing that with the agencies that we work with in terms of photography. So we don't shoot our photos for our campaigns, but we work with agencies that do. So we are slowly trying to make that also part of the requirements to showcase a diverse audience of customers, such as our real customers, actually. Yeah. But step by step.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Nádia, for your time, for your effort in preparing this presentation, in sharing all your insight with the audience here. I really liked what you presented. I'm really impressed about the values you've developed, you've shaped, the way you enforce them also in the reality. I think it looks also really nice. I think I will ask you some advice on how can we do the same with the Movify values. In the Movify values, knowledge sharing is one, and knowledge sharing is also what we enjoy doing today with the meetups. We are doing meetups every month here with the objective to share knowledge internally but externally as well. So you're welcome every month here. If you're interested, if you want to come to future meetups, we will communicate about them now on LinkedIn. We used to use more the Meetup platform. Now the place to follow us is LinkedIn. Another value of us is also enjoy. So I guess now is also time to enjoy, grab a beer, grab something to eat. So Nádia, thank you again.
Oh, thank you.
Everything.
Thank you for having me.